Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for this special dialogue. And the man of the hour is Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al-Thani. He is the Deputy Prime Minister of Qatar and also the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Qatar. Thank you very much for your time. And of course, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Nicolas Pelham, Middle East correspondent at The Economist. And we're going to put His Excellency through his paces for the next half an hour. Your Excellency, I need to start with the viewpoint of where you as Qatar stand in terms of GCC relations. I've been privy to a number of discussions, as have most of the people in this room. The Foreign Minister of Egypt, the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, have all been asked about Qatar and GCC. The blow-up of 2017, I bring it back onto the table. I'd like your voice to weigh in at this point.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me here. Be delighted to speak today to the audience. Regarding your question about the situation of the GCC, what happened in 2017 was really a disruption for the region. And we believe the blockade of Qatar and the sequences of events after that has been affecting and undermining the security of our region, and it really didn't help in our collective effort as GCC nations. Now, in the recent weeks, maybe we have moved from a stalemate to some progress where there are some talks took place between us and specifically and Saudi, and we hope that these talks will lead to a progress where we can see an end for the crisis. What we are really looking at right now is really a forward-looking vision. We are not looking at behind. We have a lot of challenges that surrounding us. And Qatar always aim for a more stable region and more stable GCC, more united GCC.
Nick?
Thank you. So, Your Excellency, probably should express our commiserations for Qatar losing to Saudi Arabia 1-0 in the Arabian Cup, but you had some compensation perhaps that you did defeat the Emiratis. What does that tell us about the state of kind of relations specifically with Saudi Arabia and the Emirates at the moment? What have you managed to do really to stitch back the relations, and can you tell us a little bit more about your meetings in Riyadh?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this compliment about our national team beating or winning against the UAE, and unfortunately we lost yesterday against Saudi, but we wish them all the best. At the end, we believe that football and sports unites people, and we believe such a step is a positive step, that they are participating within this championship, which has been a very long standing tradition for the Gulf countries, where countries are coming together. Talking about the progress and what's happening right now, what I can tell you, given the sensitivity of the issue, we cannot elaborate much about it, but we are at least moving from the status of stalemate and the initial demands and all the discussion about the rationality in the 13s and the others to more talks about forward-looking thinking is not and those I cannot disclose officials who are they or what are the countries or the parties involved, but what I can say here that there are sequences of events took place under the Kuwaiti mediation, and His Highness the Emir of Kuwait, we are very thankful for him, as all GCC countries, for his continuous efforts and commitment in restoring the GCC.
So just before Nick goes on there, so can we confirm, as the media reports are saying, that you were in Riyadh?
Well, I cannot.
last week?
I cannot. I told you I won't go into the details. There are several meetings took place in different countries, in different places, between officials, without disclosing the name of the officials who participated in these meetings.
Fair point.
So if we're looking forward, let's start with Iran. Clearly there is a kind of position that other members of the GCC have towards Iran, which are not the case in Qatar. You have maintained your relations with Iran throughout. Are you now planning to kind of fall in line with the Saudis and with the Emiratis on Qatar and downgrade your on Iran and downgrade your relations with Iran, or perhaps even sever them as the Saudis have done?
Well, in relation to Iran, first of all, we have to acknowledge that Iran is our neighbor, and we look at it differently than maybe countries who are here in the West or United States. We will remain having a relation of good neighborhood with them. We are sharing with them an interest, which is our gas field. We are sharing with them an interest of security of our borders and their borders as well. And when the blockade took place, Iran opened up for us and opened the airspace, and the Qatari people are very thankful for this move. Relating this to Qatar policy, would it change if there is a restoration in the Gulf? We don't see any correlation between the two steps. Qatar has been always with an independent foreign policy, and this foreign policy will remain independent, and we don't think that our internal or external affair will be subject for negotiation with anyone. We understand if there are some concerns of our neighbors, we are willing to discuss those concerns and to address them. But we are not going to talk about what should we do and what we shouldn't as a sovereign nation. And I don't think any sovereign country accept this. We believe that in one day, the entire region needs to talk to Iran. We need to restore stability in our region. And we believe that the dialogue will be the ultimate solution for what's happening. And the current tension is not in favor of anyone.
And the other issue that that emerged this morning was that of political Islam, where again it's come up repeatedly that Qatar has been, the crucible for the Brotherhood and for other Islamist movements in the region. Do you think that you did back the wrong horse? And how is that going to change? There have been reports that the Brotherhood is going to be expelled from Qatar altogether. What is your response?
Well, first of all, we disagree with the premise because Qatar has not been supportive for Muslim Brotherhood or political Islam, but this stereotype has been repeated now for a long time. We need to look at what Qatar really did with the countries, whether it's under political Islam leadership, Muslim Brotherhood leadership, or other leaderships. We have for example, Tunisia, Muslim Brotherhood were in power. Qatar supported Tunisia after the Arab Spring. Muslim Brotherhood left power. Qatar doubled their support to Tunisia after that. And we continue this support because our support goes to the people, not to the political party. At the end of the day, Qatar is a state, not a political party. We will remain supporting countries that are important to us. The people of those countries, we are going to support them. In Egypt is the same case. Our support went to Egypt when the military council was in power. It continued after they elected their president, which was fair and transparent election. We continued our support after what happened and after the overthrow of Morsi, and we didn't stop this. So tying Qatar with a single party or with Muslim Brotherhood or with single ideology, it's proven that it's a wrong accusation, and we will continue carrying our policy in support for the people, despite their leadership and whom they are electing for their leadership.
So Bronwyn, forgive me, but just one follow-up. Yeah. It has been reported that the Muslim Brotherhood will no longer have a formal presence in Doha. Is that the case?
Muslim Brotherhood, they don't have a formal presence in Doha, and they never had a formal presence in Doha. And
will you be pushing them out?
well, what has been reported, what I can tell you, what has been reported that we agree on something and we disagreed on another thing, it's totally wrong. We are still in discussion, and as I told you, the elements of the discussion will remain discreet.
I want to chat more broadly about foreign policy and your relationship with the West. And this may be a little cheeky, but there is a perception that the wealth factor will draw you many friends from the West. Are you being courted left, right, and center, Your Excellency?
Well, definitely Qatar considered one of the wealthy nation. We are blessed with natural resources, which we are using for the prosperity of the country and for our people and for the good of humanity. We are very proud with our partnership with Europe, with other countries as well. We are doing an excellent investments, whether it's here in Italy or across Europe or in North America, Asia, Africa. And we have seen that this investment is helping and serving our national agenda to diversify our economy away from the hydrocarbon. Of course, there might be, with some people, some misperception that it can be only Qatar as deep pocket, but once they start deal with Qatar, they know how professional our people are and how sophisticated is the process for us to select our investments. And these decisions has been taken on purely commercial basis, and none of them is politically motivated.
Any comment on relations potentially with France and their investments into North Africa?
We have a lot of investments in France, and we are also in partnership with some of the French company in different countries, for example, in Africa. And we are looking forward to expand this partnership with France and with other countries as well, to serve and to learn from their experience in the regions where they have, whether it's in Asia, in Latin America, or in Africa.
China, can we bring China into the fray? Nick, before you continue on your vein, give me a sense of how close you are with the Chinese. There are many reports out there that this is a relationship that you are nurturing.
Well, our relation with China has been very good and very strong in the energy sector, especially. We are one of their sources of supplies for the LNG. We have very strong trade relationship also in the other sectors. There is a lot of Chinese investment in Doha, as well as Qatari investments in China. And we believe that China is one of the world power, where Qatar will always work on building a relation and strong partnership with them.
Can we come back a little bit to the GCC and look at the decisions which were taken before this crisis broke over imposition of VAT? Some countries have imposed VAT. Qatar has not. As part of your realignment back into the fold, will you now be imposing VAT in Qatar?
Well, the VAT is really a national-driven decision. It has been taken consideration, the GCC factors, but we have decided as a government to look at it gradually, and we are starting with some selective items. So there is a selective VAT applied on materials which are affecting the health, for example. So this is a step, and we are continuing our study based on our economic needs.
So again, looking at the internal economy and sort of, if you look at your own foreign workers, when Gulf nationals come to the West, they expect to have certain rights. They expect to have residency rights. They expect to, at some point, be able to apply after one generation or two, or maybe less, for citizenship. That's not a right that you accord your own foreign nationals in Qatar. Can you see a point where foreign nationals will be able to apply for a green card or for citizenship?
Well, it depends. Each country has different laws and has different constitution. Our constitution in Qatar and the laws in Qatar is prohibiting dual citizenship for the Qatari people. We have our special characteristic, which we are happy with, and we would love to preserve.
There are others who, though, I mean, if you were to have governments in the West that said under no circumstances can foreigners have equal rights to nationals, can they never gain citizenship? Others would turn around and call that deeply racist.
Well, we didn't call it racist. It's a sovereign decision. Whether if the Europeans, they are basing their decisions based on their internal needs and assessment, we have to respect this, and they have to respect our decisions as well.
Can I go
Bronwyn,
good cop now?
Yeah.
Right.
Bronwyn,
Just
please.
earlier, I was chatting to the CEO of the Qatar Investment Authority, His Excellency Al Mahmoud, and we were chatting about LNG and the diversification within your broader economy. Can you talk to me about the drivers of the economy and this focus on LNG, liquid natural gas?
Well, Qatar is one of the world leaders in the LNG supplies, and we have seen this progress, which started almost more than 20 years ago. Qatar now is supplying 25% of the LNG requirement in the world. And we are very proud of this progress, and we are going to continue that. But in order to have a sustainable growth and sustainable development for our country, we have to diversify away from the LNG, and we have worked as part of our Qatar National Vision 2030, which was launched in 2008 to diversify our economy, where we were at a position of the hydrocarbon contribution to the GDP was above 80%, and we reached last year almost at 50% of hydrocarbon and 50% from different sectors. And our ultimate objective is really to dilute the contribution of the hydrocarbon more. And even with the expansion and the progress that Qatar is going to have in the next few years in the LNG production, this shouldn't affect our growth from be driven by other sectors. We are focusing on our investments, on our international investments, focusing on attracting foreign investments in Qatar, focusing on developing and encouraging the private sector to nurture in Qatar and providing them with the right environment. There are a lot of government initiatives which took place in the past few years, and the whole government is focused to drive the economy away from the hydrocarbon, which will remain a very important factor in our growth.
Nick, you want to go to Al Jazeera?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure many of us, if not all of us, watch it. It's a remarkable channel. It's very good at exposing dissent across the Middle East. It's much less good at exposing views, dissent in Qatar. And I just wondered, given the focus that you provide a platform for exposing problems in other countries, but when it comes to how you manage Qatar itself, academic freedoms are a question, opinions can be, dissent is not encouraged. At what point do you think Al Jazeera and sort of Qatar generally can provide a greater kind of spotlight on internal dissent? And at what point are you going to start moving towards the electoral program that you welcome in other countries?
Well, first of all, Qatar has now took a long way in progressing and advancing freedom of academia and the freedom of expression, and I don't think that you can see other examples in the region, in the Gulf region, reaching to the same level of freedom. We know this is a long journey which took a lot of developed nations years and decades to achieve their ultimate objective. And in Qatar, we are the same of those countries. Speaking about Al Jazeera and your point about Al Jazeera exposing everything in the Middle East and except Qatar, Qatar has never been major things happening which is concerning to the region and concerning to the surrounding and never been reported in Al Jazeera. And any report, if you see it in international media outlet which worth being broadcasted on Al Jazeera, we have seen them there. I don't see the point where Al Jazeera is not exposing what's going on in Qatar. For example, when we had an issue with the laborers, it has been already in place in Al Jazeera. It's been aired on Al Jazeera, on all their outlets, and we have a discussion. There is always Qatari officials can speak to Al Jazeera to present the point of view of Qatar. If there are any controversial steps that I take as a foreign minister of Qatar, it has been reported over there in Al Jazeera. We know what our aim when we established Al Jazeera is to establish a pan-Arab news network that can report the truth and what's happening in the region. And we will be in the first row in reporting this truth about ourselves. And trust me, we have enough courage to put ourselves forward, and we never closed our door to criticism. And this is not applied only to Al Jazeera, it's to anyone. I mean, we have a standing invitation for all the rapporteurs of the United Nations. They can come in Doha, they can see what's going on there, they can criticize us from Doha. So civil society organizations, they come here, they launch their reports from Doha with press conferences, and no one has stopped them from doing so. And this has been acknowledged by all these organizations. So I think that putting Qatar in the same corner as the others, where we are trying to shut anything against us, is an unfair statement for Qatar. What has been achieved in Qatar, I think it's a precedent and a role model in our region, and it needs more encouragement and support to progress more.
Your Excellency, you're seeing protests across the region, and I suppose we want to get a sense of how resilient the GCC environment is from those widespread protests.
Well, I think watching what's happening now in the region, it's really a continuation of a process which started in 2011 when the Arab Spring took place. What we are seeing right now happening and the people protesting, I'm sure they have legitimate demands that needed to be addressed. And Qatar will remain supportive for the will of the people, and will continue also offer its advice, the right advice for the governments in order to make sure that anything happen to address these needs to happen in a way ensuring the stability of the countries and not using any means or methods that lead to a chaos which we don't want to see, and we never wanted to see even during the Arab Spring. How resilient is the GCC? We believe the GCC has its own nature, which is different than the other countries where the protests are happening. It's the economic situation over there for the people. It's vary from a country to another, but also the relationship between the leadership and the people, the way it's handled, at least in Qatar, what I can see and what I'm allowed to speak about, is something very unique. I mean, people has access to the leader. There is a demonstration of the willingness of the leadership to change and to lead change for the interest of our people. So, from my point of view, in Qatar, I see it something far from happening, God forbid. And I think that also other GCC countries, they have their own means to to continue addressing the demands and the desires of their people. There is one part of your question, sorry, I missed it, about the election, which just came to me. His Highness has announced that last year that the next council will be the elected council. And this year, in the opening of Shura Council, he announced the establishment of the preparation committee, which is now started the work to review all the required legislation for the election. And hopefully, in the next couple of years, the election will take place as soon as all the legal work is done.
So can you paint a picture of, I mean, what does Qatar look like in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? Are we going to see a sort of constitutional monarchy? Are we going to see, what does it look like in terms of its foreign policy? And it was, if you look back to 2011, when it was very gung-ho. It was supporting Thawar, the rebels in Libya. It was supporting rebels in Syria. It had a very proactive foreign policy. How does Qatar look in a decade's time?
Well, what we are aiming for to see people participation in the decision making, which is going to happen through the Shura Council. Our foreign policy is really based on principles that written in our constitution and principles which Qatar has stuck to for decades. It's not something new. We will continue supporting the will of the people. We are going to continue to support the people in our region and the governments which are answering to these demands of the people. And we are extending our aid and development aid and participation with those countries' development to more than 100 countries. And it's really not identified by race or by ethnicity or by religion. It's identified by the humanity. Wherever we see a need and we can go there and help and fulfill, we will never hesitate. In terms of economy, we hope to see continued prosperity in our country, less depending on hydrocarbon, more open investment environment to attract the foreign investments.
Your Excellency, just because we are running out of time, and to your conclusion there, I want to bring in, we spent an hour and a half talking about the intra-regional trade, sitting at around 5 to 10%, somewhere there for the MENA region. And as we're coming to this final play, do you think we're going to see 10 years out that this intra-regional trade across the MENA is firing on all cylinders, so to speak?
Well, we hope that in order to have inter-regional trade, prosperity, everything, you need to have the shared security first. Otherwise, you cannot reach to such a level. And Qatar hope to see a regional security framework to come in place and bring all the players together in order to agree on a shared security principle to move to the next step of prosperity and inter-regional trade and develop the different areas of cooperation. Other than that, without shared security, I don't see any progress in any other front.
Your Excellency, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Could we have a round of applause for the Deputy Prime Minister of Qatar and Minister of Foreign Policy. Thank you very much. And Nick, thank you very much for sharing the stage. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.